Talk boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Set to go down this weekend on the undercard of Sonny Edwards' Matchroom debut. Reigning WBA bantamweight champion Nina Hughes will be making her first defense of the WBA title against unbeaten Katie Healy, who is standing in for supposed to be Shannon Courtenay.
You know what happened? There was some back and forth between Nina and Shannon. You know, Shannon says that the knee that was operated on is acting up, whereas Nina says it's not a knee issue, it's a weight issue.
In any event, unbeaten Katie Healy will be standing in her place. Katie Healy, a kickboxer turned pro boxer,
Very statuesque for the weight.
15 years younger than the champion, a very spry 25 years old, to Nina Hughes, who's a very able 40.
Capable.
There's a noticeable height differential between the champion and the challenger. I think that will have its role to play in the fight. The trial for Katie Healy, who's very statuesque, tall, and rangy for the weight, is keeping Nina Hughes out, keeping her at arm's length. And the trial for Nina is getting close enough to Katie to land punches, land shots.
And what is this? A battle of the unbeatens. Nina Hughes sports a professional record of 5 wins with no losses, no draws, 2 knockouts.
To Katie Healy, who sports a professional record of 6 wins with no losses, no draws, no recorded knockouts. Not yet. Katie, having last seen action earlier this year,
In March.
will be her second fight of this year, having debuted as a professional in May of 2021, a kickboxer turned pro boxer.
Good steady schedule, good steady stream of fights, stream of activity, though it's important to note that 5 out of 6 girls that Katie Healy fought didn't have winning records. They had upside-down records.
And that's saying that Nina Hughes' quality of competition is in fact better than Katie Healy's.
She's beaten 2 unbeaten fighters, one of them a champion from right here in the US of A.
Back in July of last year, she gave Tycee Gallagher her first professional loss. More recently, in November of last year, she gave Jamie Mitchell her first professional loss and took her WBA title. Now she looks to defend it and retain it opposite the ring Katie Healy this weekend.
Nina fought 4 times last year. Good schedule of activity.
Katie, obviously, she saw action earlier this year in March, so both fighters will be sharp. No ring rust to have to shake off. I guess it all boils down to who you trust in what is this battle of the unbeatens. As stated, Katie Healy has very generous physical dimensions for a bantamweight, 118-pound fighter. She's tall for the weight, long for the weight. Her best punches are her straight punches,
Which is often the case with these tall, rangy fighters.
Katie Healy, a good textbook conventional boxer, serviceable,
Shows the jab, sets up the right hand.
taking a half step back in order to manage the distance and keep the opponent at arm's length.
2 good feet under her. She's more of a long-range fighter.
Whereas Nina Hughes, the defending champion, she's more of a mid-range to inside fighter.
Pint size.
You know, those pint-sized fighters make for a very small target, perhaps hard to hit for a tall, rangy fighter that needs to give up a bit of height just to land their shots, just to land their punches. I think Katie Healy might find Nina Hughes.
She may find her tricky.
Elusive and prolific in the pocket. May seem somewhat strange to say that Katie Healy is the greener fighter of the two in spite of having 6 professional fights to Nina Hughes' 5.
But she is the greener fighter of the two based on who she's been fighting. 5 out of 6 girls that Katie Healy fought had upside-down records, losing records, more losses than victories.
The last girl she fought never even won a fight. She had losses in the double digits. There's nothing wrong with a fighter fighting these kinds of fighters at the start of their career, but essentially what that means is that this is a considerable step up in competition for Katie Healy.
That directly affects whether you trust them or not.
Level of experience and what you've seen so far. I mean, Nina Hughes, she shows great variety, mid-range to inside, uppercuts, body shots.
She's a strong puncher.
Stronger, for my money, than Katie Healy, and she's a more prolific puncher than Katie Healy, a combination puncher. I don't trust that Katie Healy, at this time, has the timing and accuracy to keep Nina Hughes out.
Nina Hughes, who fights out of a wide stance, I feel like she's going to slip her way in past the straight punches, past the jab, and put punches together mid-range to inside, that she will be the busier fighter.
So even if getting close enough to Katie to land punches proves to be a trial, that still means Nina will be the one pushing the pace and pressing the issue, that she will be the more aggressive fighter in the fight because she has to be.
Yeah, Katie may have youth and height and length on her side. She's got size.
But I've often heard it said that pint-sized fighters, small fighters, make for a small target. Those small fighters with a lower center of gravity. For a tall fighter, they can be quite pesky. Think Denis Shafikov versus Robert Easter, Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua.
The first fight.
That pint-sized fighter can make it mid-range to inside. That taller fighter, longer fighter with the longer arms may become flustered as that range favors the smaller fighter.
That's Nina.
Able to string punches together in more rapid succession than that longer fighter with longer arms that needs more room to work.
I don't trust that Katie Healy, at this point in the juncture, can keep Nina Hughes out.
So long as Nina Hughes can get in, she can work. Katie may sacrifice rounds, not throwing enough or landing enough, trying to create space, trying to move around the ring, use it, keeping Nina Hughes out, making Nina the ring general, making Nina possibly the busier fighter in the fight.
God forbid that Katie actually sells out and engages Nina in the pocket. That definitely favors Nina.
She's like a tornado when she gets within striking distance. Katie Healy has the right base style for the job, just not enough stripes.
She's got the right idea.
Still seems green around the gills for me, though. Greener, much greener than Nina Hughes. So I like Nina to win on activity. I like Nina Hughes to win a points decision opposite the ring, Katie Healy, and retain the WBA title this weekend. In men's super bantamweight news, per tweet from International Boxing News, unified WBA IBF super bantamweight champion Marlon Tapales has been approved by the WBA to unify against the winner of Fulton versus Inoue, set to go down the same week as Spence versus Crawford.
Going down July 25th in the land of the rising sun in Japan. I feel like the sanctioning bodies really should do this more often. Don't get in the way of title consolidation matches needlessly.
Make it easier for the champions to fight the other champions. Make it easier for the best to fight the best. Marlon Tapales
won the WBA and IBF super bantamweight titles from then champion, then unbeaten champion MJ Akhmadaliev, who has been ordered to face Tomohiko Kimita in a final eliminator.
The winner of the fight will get a shot at all the marbles, potentially get a shot at all the belts by the time the outcome of all of these matches
comes.
You figure that the winner of Inoue versus Fulton, whoever it is, could potentially go straight into another unification match with the only other champion at this weight, Marlon Tapales.
Especially if the winner is Naoya Inoue, who I figure would like to see himself crowned a two-time undisputed champion sooner rather than later.
Became an undisputed champion in his last fight in the men's bantamweight division. Now he is seeking to become a unified and potentially an undisputed champion.
He's a 4-division champion overall, and he could see himself become a 2-time undisputed champion. Unprecedented, but with the kind of celebrity and star power that Naoya Inoue has in Japan, he can make that happen.
It helps quite a bit that Naoya Inoue can provide the biggest payday for any fighter and any champion at or around these weights, more so than Stephen Fulton. Nothing against him, but he isn't in America what Inoue is in Japan, so that helps that he's got all that money behind him, that kind of marquee value to bring fighters over and make things happen.
So you figure the winner of Inoue versus Fulton, especially if it's Naoya Inoue, may take on Marlon Tapales and become that division's undisputed champion.
So that by the time that the outcome of that fight is decided, the winner of Akhmadaliev versus Kimita,
the winner of the fight will already be waiting in the queue, waiting for their chance to fight for all the marbles, all the belts. Not too shabby.
Marlon Tapales, as a champion, a newly crowned unified champion, presents a stiff task for the winner of Inoue versus Fulton. A very capable fighter, balanced and athletic.
Sharp.
Made MJ Akhmadaliev look bad out there. I'm surprised that MJ didn't have an immediate rematch clause. Apparently, that's not the case.
Got to earn his way back to a title. Those 2 alphabet titles, that's the look of it.
Before it comes to that, we've got to get through Inoue versus Fulton.
Naoya Inoue, who ranks in at number 3 on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list. Stephen Fulton, he ranks in at number 9.
9. There's set to be a lot of movement on the list very soon. Fulton, who's ranked just ahead of former undisputed champion, though still reigning champion, Josh Taylor. Depending on how Josh looks this weekend, I mean, if he goes in there and he sparks out Teofimo Lopez, that will help him regain some ground. The main reason he dropped so low on the list is because he hasn't fought in over a year, and the outcome of his last fight was quite controversial. If he wins in good fashion this weekend,
He'll move up.
per the rules that govern the list. Successful title defenses, they help. They help quite a bit, accenting a fighter's longevity. If he can go in there, beat Teofimo in good fashion, he will not only advance ahead of Fulton, who ranks in at number 9, but he will also advance ahead of Devin Haney.
Him and Devin have both been undisputed champions, but Josh Taylor beat more champions to do it. 3 to Devin Haney's 1.
Ivan Baranchyk for the IBF, Regis Prograis for the WBA, and Jose Ramirez for the WBC and WBO titles, whereas Devin only beat one champion, and that was George Kambosos. He won 3 belts in the process.
That takes care of this weekend's fight. When it comes to Inoue versus Fulton, you guys know the rules.
Why is Naoya Inoue still there if he vacated all of his belts at bantamweight? Isn't the rule any fighter absent of a world title is not allowed to maintain a rank?
Yeah, normally it is, but Inoue is what I like to call a champion in transition. A champion at one weight moving up to another, whose very next fight at the weight is a title fight.
If his next fight weren't a title fight, if it weren't against the champion, then he wouldn't be there. He would have been ejected from the list until such a time as he becomes a champion again. But because he's fighting a champion,
He keeps the rank. He keeps it unless he loses.
if he loses, he's off the list. If he wins, he will move up to either number 1 or number 2. Currently, he's ranked at number 3.
Going to be a bit of hair splitting because very soon Terrence Crawford will be vying to become a 2-time undisputed champion.
Naoya Inoue and Terrence Crawford may replace Alexander Usyk and Canelo Alvarez as the top 2 pound-for-pound fighters on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list very soon, because they will both see action the same week.
If Inoue wins and Terrence wins, number 1 and number 2 will be between them.
If Inoue loses, Crawford loses, they're both off the list, creating 2 separate vacancies for other fighters, other reigning champions, emphasis on champions, to occupy.
That situation, Errol Spence would gain considerable ground on the list, and so would Fulton.
If they were to win, they're both off the list. If they lose,
Errol's currently ranked at number 7, Stefan's ranked at number 9.
so the same applies. 2 vacancies will be created once the outcomes of those 2 separate fights are decided.
And I'm looking forward to it.
There's going to be movement. There's definitely going to be movement. And you never know. Might start this weekend.
What if Teofimo wins?
Well, the list in its fashion would reflect that, though. Former 2-division champion and recent Hall of Fame inductee, Timothy Bradley, he thinks Teofimo is dog food for the top 140-pounders.
And he's not the only guy saying that. The instability often associated with Teofimo, what kind of headspace he's in
tandem with the kind of opponent he's going to be facing, I mean, at minimum, you want to be in the right headspace ahead of a fight like this. Teofimo, however, he's never been short of confidence, but as his showdown against Josh Taylor gets a bit closer, his confident attitude has grown to hubris. This upcoming weekend at the Hulu Theater in New York's Madison Square Garden, Lopez will look to become a 2-division champion. Long before the two agreed to terms for their super lightweight clash, Lopez has always believed that Taylor has virtually no chance against him. Timothy Bradley, on the other hand, after sifting through hours of game tape from both fighters, wholeheartedly disagrees with Lopez's assertion. He loses, said Bradley to KO Artist Sports when asked if he believes that Lopez has what it takes to pick up the win. Josh Taylor is a dog, man.
I think people have forgotten about just how spiteful and effective Josh Taylor can be. Their last memory of him was how he looked in the Catterall fight, and that obviously wasn't the best advertisement for Josh. But if the Josh Taylor that fought Ivan Baranchyk, or the Josh Taylor that fought Regis Prograis, the Josh Taylor that fought Jose Ramirez,
If that Josh Taylor shows up, Teofimo is in trouble.
big trouble.
Since moving up in weight, Lopez may have reeled off 2 consecutive victories, but his overall performances have been lackluster. As Bradley takes a long and strong look at the rest of the super lightweight division's elite, he surmises that whether it's Taylor or one of the division's upper echelons, Lopez simply won't be able to compete. He's dog food for the top 140s.
I feel like Timothy Bradley may have Regis Prograrius in mind. Subriel Matias as well.
When he says that Teofimo is dog food, and if it were one of them he were facing this weekend, then it would seem almost a foregone conclusion that Teofimo loses. The silver lining for Teofimo is that Josh Taylor hasn't fought in over a year, and we're not quite sure at this time if he can continue to make the weight match fit, fighting fit, healthy.
You know, Regis and Subriel Matias, they've seen action in the last 12 months, so you don't have to worry about them having to shake off ring rust.
And I haven't heard anything about either fighter struggling to make 140 pounds, whereas Josh, that's a factor. That could be something in play, something that's working for Teofimo, on the premise that he wins, on the premise that he beats Josh Taylor and becomes a two-division champion and a two-time lineal champion.
Remember, Teofimo was unified. He held 3 alphabet titles at lightweight,
the same as Errol Spence Jr. currently holds at welterweight, and the same as Artur Beterbiev at light heavyweight. Teofimo did have 3 belts. This would be a 4th at a second weight,
making him a two-division champion, unlike them.
Would be an argument there for Teofimo to be ranked somewhere around number 6, maybe number 7 on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list, on the premise that he would be a 2-time lineal champion and a 2-division champion overall, unlike Artur and unlike Errol, unlike Devin, and unlike Stefan.
Those guys have only ever been champions at one weight.
The Ring IQ pound-for-pound list would reflect Teofimo's victory if he pulls it off, and points for style, added points for style as well. If he silences the critics and the boo-birds with a dominant victory, the list will reflect that. It's just that most
people feel like Timothy Bradley feels, that Josh Taylor, he's just too big and he's got too much dog for Teofimo.
I can't stress this enough. If the Josh Taylor that fought Jose Ramirez shows up on Saturday, Teofimo Lopez could be in serious trouble.
Based on his last 2 performances, Teofimo hasn't proven to be the same puncher at 140 pounds that he was at 135.
Used to have a size advantage down there at lightweight over most other lightweights. He was big for the weight, but he's not big for super lightweight. Josh Taylor, on the other hand,
he's always been big for super lightweight.
Spiteful too, very effective mid-range to inside. The question is, if Josh Taylor starts smoking, can Teofimo Lopez keep him off, keep him out?
And can he take a flush shot from this guy? Because he's been floored by George Kambosos, floored by Sandor Martin. These are not big punchers.
What happens if Josh lands on him? We'll find out this Saturday.